All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. So today we'll have your lecture on drugs acting on the sympathetic nervous system. So this is actually a continuation of what you had last week with Dr. Dueñas when he lectured on the autonomic nervous system and the drugs acting on the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so we'll see later on. Hopefully, we might use later on yung ating 1 o'clock session until around 1:20 or 1:30. And then your post-lecture quiz is scheduled at 1:30 for the preloading time. Okay. And then you'll start at 1:40. Okay. So by the end of this lecture, you should be able to describe the important features of the sympathetic nervous system as a review of what you had last week. And then we'll describe the different adrenergic receptors as to type and the molecular pharmacology. And we'll describe different adrenergic agents and adrenergic blockers. Okay, so as a review, so remember that the autonomic nervous system controls involuntary body functions, yung mga pupillary reflex, focusing ng ating vision, blood pressure, digestion, excretion, and it contains both a sensory and motor component. So that sensory meaning sensing stimuli from the external environment and then responding to it. The autonomic nervous system innervates generally your smooth muscles, the cardiac muscles, and glands. One reason in terms of its anatomy, the primary reason why it is able to function automatically, that is or involuntarily, is with the presence of your ganglions in the apparent pathway. So this differentiates the autonomic nervous system from the somatic or the voluntary motor system. So again, just as a review, remember that for the sympathetic nervous system, the ganglia arise close to the spinal column. So therefore, you have short preganglionic fibers and long postganglionic neurons. The sympathetic nervous system would arise from the thoracolumbar regions of the lateral horn of the spinal cord. Okay. So from T1 to L2. Of course, the characteristics will be the opposite for the parasympathetic nervous system. So pagka sympathetic, thoracolumbar, pag sympathetic, thoracolumbar, pag parasympathetic, craniosacral. And then the length of the fibers will also be different. So this next figure is from your textbook and just illustrates to you this anatomic configuration. Generally, there will be a ganglion, di ba? However, for the innervation of the adrenal medulla, note na walang ganglion. No? So diretso siya, rising from the spinal cord, diretso siya sa adrenal medulla. Now, in terms of the neurotransmitters, which we will be discussing in the next section, note in this figure that lahat ng mga yung neurotransmitter sa ganglion is always acetylcholine, whether it is sympathetic or parasympathetic. Tapos yung mga postganglionic na neurons, yung neurotransmitter, that would vary depending on the organ. Note as well that while generally understanding natin, di ba, pagka sympathetic, ang mga involved na neurotransmitters would be norepinephrine and dopamine, take note that for the sweat glands, it is still acetylcholine, so via the muscarinic receptors. So kahit na part siya ng sympathetic nervous system, ang neurotransmitter na nandoon ay acetylcholine for the sweat glands. Yeah. Okay, so that would be important later on when we go towards the end of this lecture, when we talk about the effect of beta blockers and yung manifestations ng hypoglycemia And what specific symptom yung hindi nabablock ng mga beta blockers kapag may nag-hypoglycemia yung patient. Okay? So, and then a majority of the discussion will be in relating sa norepinephrine, yung effects ng norepinephrine on the different receptors. And then there will be a short part only yung effects ng dopamine. So note as well that for dopamine, ang involved na receptors dito would be the dopamine 1 receptors. Kasi there are two families of dopamine receptors. So ang important sa atin in the sympathetic nervous system is the dopamine 1 subtype. Now for the receptors ng norepinephrine, you have alpha and beta receptors. So going dito sa transmitter biochemistry, so while this section says na yung acetylcholine is relevant for the parasympathetic nervous system, and this is what you discussed last week, just to remind you as what we showed in the previous figure, that for the ganglion, whether parasympathetic or sympathetic, acetylcholine yung neurotransmitter doon. So magiging relevant din ito even for the sympathetic nervous system. And I don't know kung di ba later on you will have your lecture, lab na concept map discussion on the sarin gas poisoning. So it's important to note there that the effects of the excess na acetylcholine because of the reduced, dahil nga di ba these are acetylcholine esterase inhibitors yung mga nerve gas, na effect lang niya, hindi lang siya sa postganglionic na acetylcholine receptors, no? But even on the ganglion, pwede magkaroon ng epekto yun. So that can result in variation ng response na pwedeng mix na parang sympathetic and then parasympathetic din. Kasi nga, acetylcholine can also be affected at the level of the ganglion. Okay? So just to show here again the synthesis and the termination of action, and the release and the termination of action of acetylcholine. So you remember the VAMs and SNAPs, and then of course you synthesize it, and then it is stored in the vesicles, it is released, and then it binds to your postsynaptic na neuron sa mga receptors doon. Note as well in this figure na merong mga presynaptic receptors, and this in concept would act as your autoreceptors for negative feedback. Now, for acetylcholine, the action is terminated through the action of acetylcholine esterases via hydrolysis. So this would be different in the sympathetic nervous system for norepinephrine and dopamine. So going now sa sympathetic nervous system, as I said, acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter at the sympathetic ganglia, and then at postganglionic fibers, it varies. So we mentioned already for sweat glands and some vasodilator fibers going to the skeletal muscle blood vessels. This is innervated. Ang neurotransmitter involved here would be acetylcholine. For norepinephrine, so let's just briefly review how norepinephrine is synthesized. So the precursor is tyrosine, which is pumped into the cytoplasm by a carrier. The tyrosine is hydroxylated by tyrosine hydroxylase to DOPA. This is the rate-limiting step in the synthesis of norepinephrine. And then eventually DOPA is converted to dopamine by dopamine decarboxylase. Yung process ng hydroxylation by tyrosine hydroxylase can be inhibited by a drug called metyrosine. So that would eventually result in a reduction of synthesis of norepinephrine. Now, in yung dopamine na yan, so kasi di ba in dopaminergic neurons, it will mag-end na yung synthesis into the synthesis of dopamine. So hanggang doon na lang siya. So like sa figure kanina, yung mga nag-innervate ng renal vessels and splanchnic blood vessels. So dopamine yung nandoon, di ba? So hanggang doon na lang yung nasi-synthesize. But in the other organs, like in the heart and in the other smooth muscles, yung nasi-synthesize doon hanggang norepinephrine. So dopamine is converted to norepinephrine by dopamine beta hydroxylase. So the process is generally identical, pero pagka dun sa organs where ang neurotransmitter doon na important would be norepinephrine. So yung dopamine will be converted pa to norepinephrine. Okay? So when it is already synthesized, these catecholamines are pumped into storage vesicles where they are protected from monoamine oxidase that is present in the mitochondria at the nerve ending. So, di ba ang main function sa vesicle, para it will be stored there, and then it will eventually be released from the neurotransmitter through a presynaptic activity. So yung monoamine oxidase is an important enzyme that degrades your catecholamines. And while at this point, wala tayong mga drugs that would have a direct effect on monoamine oxidase, that would have an influence sa mga sa sympathetic nervous system. Madidiscuss ito when you go into your CNS acting drugs like antidepressants, and if I remember right, mga drugs for Parkinson's disease. So when you go into your CNS acting drugs, that will be important. We will be mentioning your monoamine oxidase inhibitors later in relation to possible drug interactions with your sympathomimetic agents. Yeah. So yung norepinephrine, sabi ko nga, diba, is released from the nerve ending via the interaction of calcium with your VAMs and SNAPs. Eventually, it will go dun sa distal portion ng presynaptic neuron and it will be released. Now, in contrast to acetylcholine, where the action is terminated by an enzyme, yung acetylcholine esterase, for norepinephrine, its action is terminated by being taken up back into the presynaptic neuron through your norepinephrine transporters. So for dopamine, ganun din siya, dopamine transporters yung nag-uptake sa kanya. Another way to terminate its action is by diffusion out of the synapse. So of course, when norepinephrine is released, it binds to your post-synaptic receptors in the postsynaptic neuron. And it can also bind to presynaptic na receptors. So actually for norepinephrine, yung ano dyan is your alpha-2 receptors. So yung mga presynaptic na receptors, sabi natin, di ba, that's primarily for feedback mechanism. So the effect would be a reduction in norepinephrine release kapag nag-bind yung norepinephrine doon. So so kaya later baka malito kayo pagka agonist, di ba? Usually pag sinasabi natin na agonist, kailangan para activation ng receptors, di ba? Pero pagka alpha-2 agonist, ang magiging effect niya will be overall inhibition kasi negative feedback yung kanyang purpose. So norepinephrine synthesizing neurons do not contain endocytic mechanisms for taking up botulinum toxin. So hindi ito inhibited by botulinum toxin compared with your cholinergic neurons. Okay? So we also note here pala in this figure some drugs that can affect for example itong bretylium and quinetidine. Nakaka-affect yan sa storage ng norepinephrine. Itong cocaine and your tricyclic antidepressants, this would actually be can affect the uptake or reuptake ng norepinephrine, and to a certain extent also dopamine. So indirectly, these drugs can increase your concentration ng catecholamines in the synapse and prolong yung action niya. Okay. So for the receptors and the second messengers, so ang focus natin dito would be yung sa norepinephrine. So take note that the two primary receptors of norepinephrine are alpha and beta receptors. Remember again that your adrenergic receptors are G-protein coupled receptors. So kung G-protein sila, remember yung ano niya, yung general structure niya. May cell surface receptor, may G-protein that is coupled to an effector system. No? It's either an ion channel or an enzyme. In this case, it's coupled to an enzyme. Okay, so also, please take note of the subtype ng G-protein na involved sa mga receptors. So pag alpha 1, GQ, pag alpha 2, GI, pag beta receptors, GS. And in this table is also shown to you the location of these different receptors. So this would be important for us to a certain extent memorize. No? Kasi pagka naintindihan natin ito, mas madali nating mape-predict kung ano yung effect ng stimulation on the sympathetic nervous system. So we will discuss this more in detail as we go along in the next slides. So ito yung sa muscarinic receptors and then and nicotinic receptors. Pero ano na to sa parasympathetic. Okay. So this is what I was mentioning earlier, yung G-protein coupled na receptors. And if you remember, di ba, pagka sabi ni Dr. Alejo, yung G-protein coupled receptors, kapag ka na-activate yun, meron tayong tinatawag, they generate second messengers. So when you generate second messengers, ibig sabihin there is a non-linear na receptor occupancy response. So ibig sabihin hindi siya 1:1. Kasi pag may second messenger, may signal amplification. So bringing further actions of the transmitter. So hindi siya 1:1 like your ligand-gated ion channels. So, and you mentioned already ito nga, yung last bullet, yung sa presynaptic receptors. So this table is from Katzung and summarizes to you the different organ systems and effects ng sympathetic and parasympathetic on the different organs, specifying also kung ano yung nangyayari, the action, and the specific receptor. So pag nakita nyo to and then makita nyo may mga parang brackets, di ba? Yung mga brackets doon, ibig sabihin, less important siya, but still can cause, may influence pa rin siya. Yeah. And then, note dito, I think, so this is medyo complicated siya, no? Pero siguro itong next na table, this is more simpler and more direct, no, in terms of the organ or tissue and the effects ng sympathetic discharge, as well as the receptors involved. So, di ba pag fight or flight, so ano ba yung kailangan nangyayari pag fight or flight? Di ba kailangan the body should, for example, be ready for fight or flight. So kailangan, for example, magkukos siya ng pupillary dilatation to allow more entry of light sa eyes, sa airways, no bronchodilation, so pagka naman genitourinary and gastrointestinal, mainly inhibition. So slowing motility, contraction of sphincters, mediation ng ejaculation, tapos sa blood vessels. So magkaiba siya, no? Depende kung ano yung sinusupply niya. So pagka sa arteriole, sa skin and splanchnic vessels, ang important doon yung alpha receptor. Pagka naman sa skeletal muscle, yung beta receptors. So beta 2 receptors. So and then the heart, syempre, while nakasabi dito both beta 1 and 2, mas predominant yung effect ng beta 1 for the effects sa heart. So it accelerates all pacemakers, increasing now on ito yung increased chronotropic effect. So bibilis yung heart rate, AV nodal conduction, ito yung dromotropic effect. And then increase force of contraction, the contractility. So yan. And then sa sweat glands, sabi nga natin, muscarinic siya. And to a certain extent, itong salivation. Although slight lang influence niya, mas marami, mas napipredominate yung parasympathetic for salivation. For metabolic effects, primarily, di ba, kailangan ng energy kung fight or flight. So, kailangan mag-release ka ng glucose or gluconeogenesis or beta oxidation ng fatty acids. So, this will be primarily mediated by your beta receptors. Sa beta-1, I think it influences renin release. So, ano nangyayari pag renin release? You have eventual activation of your RAAS, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. So ano mangyayari? Vasoconstriction and salt and water retention. And then dito, you look sa sa potassium levels, potassium release and uptake. So ibig sabihin nito, there is an initial increase in potassium levels followed by decrease in potassium levels. So yung potassium release na yan is due to the di ba, pagka nag-glycogenolysis, so that releases glucose from the liver. So tataas initially yung potassium, and then when the glucose now is taken up by your skeletal muscles, so bababa din yung potassium kasi the uptake of glucose in the skeletal muscles is accompanied by potassium uptake as well. So pagka na-stimulate ang beta receptors, there's initial potassium release, tataas yung potassium, tapos bababa pagka na-uptake na siya. And then I highlighted here potentiate thyroid effects. So kaya siya potentiate kasi yung thyroid hormones, hindi naman yan nagsistimulate ng adrenoreceptors kasi totally different na receptors siya yung sa thyroid hormones. Pero thyroid hormones can upregulate your adrenoreceptors. So pag nag-upregulate yung adrenoreceptors, the effect would be, ano maging epekto niya? The tissues with adrenoreceptors become more sensitive to norepinephrine. Right? So pagka more sensitive siya, you will need less of your agonist, or in this case, less norepinephrine to elicit yung effect niya on that cell. So kaya majority ng symptoms ng thyrotoxicosis, diba, are related to sympathetic nervous system stimulation. Tachycardia, tremors, weight loss. Yan. So because of the upregulation of the beta receptors. And then last, dito sa skeletal muscles, so increases strength and causes tremor. So increased strength through the alpha receptors and causes tremors through the beta-2 receptors. So this next figure shows to you the integration of autonomic effects. Primarily, I think this is in blood pressure regulation. So, diba, there's always a balance between your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, depending on what state the patient is, the human body is in. So, for example, di ba, kapag ang baroreceptors, ang i-receive niyang stimulation is stretch, di ba? Ang mangyayari is activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. Pero kapag naman, for example, may blood loss or a drop in blood pressure, so you activate now the sympathetic nervous system. So in some cases, merong mga tinatawag tayo ng may mga idiopathic na orthostatic hypotension o yung mga may problem with dysautonomia, yung parang hindi nagre-respond well yung kanyang autonomic nervous system. So later on, we'll mention that. And then ano yung drug na binibigay for the usually manifestation is orthostatic hypotension. So we'll mention that towards in the middle of this lecture later. So And then this is what I was mentioning earlier regarding presynaptic modulation for modulating norepinephrine release. So yung receptors ng mga presynaptic modulation can be positive or negative modulators. Ang clinically relevant sa atin itong presynaptic alpha-2 receptors, which are, ang function niya is a reduction in norepinephrine release. So certain drugs like clonidine, methyl-dopa, so yan yung nag-act on the alpha-2 receptors. So are there any questions? Mukhang wala pa naman. Sige. So let's go now to your sympathomimetic agents. So as the term implies, no, these are drugs that would mimic the sympathetic nervous system. So ito yung, they are classified or subdivided on their on whether they are direct or indirect acting and kung ano yung specific na receptor sila nag-bind. Okay, so your sympathomimetic agents are actually used in various conditions, and this is how, as I mentioned, they are subdivided or subgrouped, no, depending on the receptor action, spectrum of action sa mga receptors, and their mode of action, whether they are direct or indirect. So sa adrenoreceptors, sabi natin kanina, di ba? The adrenoreceptors are either alpha, beta, or dopamine receptors. And again, may alpha-1, may alpha-2, and beta-1, 2, 3, and then you have dopamine 1 and 2 receptors. So this is again another table similar to what we showed earlier, no? But focusing more on the alpha receptors. So on the adrenergic receptors. So mas specific dito yung mga organs and their actions. So this is again a good table for you to master, no? Para maano natin. We will note yung mga differences and yung mga areas that may seem contradictory, no, later on. Like for example, itong alpha-2, you will see, for example, merong effect siya on vascular smooth muscle na contraction. So, and ang interpretation natin dyan, di ba, usually pagka nag-contract ang vascular smooth muscle, it causes vasoconstriction and it can increase blood pressure, di ba? Pero nasabi naman natin din kanina na kapag sa nerve terminal siya, sa presynaptic neuron, ang effect niya is inhibition of neurotransmitter release. So, bababa dapat yung blood pressure, di ba? So, medyo contradictory siya, no? Pero ang ano natin diyan later on, pagka kasi dito sa contraction, that would be, ang effect niya this would depend on how it is administered, yung drug. Kapag binigay siya topically or locally, contraction. Pero pag binigay siya orally, so ang mangingibabaw itong inhibition ng neurotransmitter release. Okay, so iyan yung i-clarify natin later on. So parang actually repetition lang ito yung kaninang slide, no, na pinakita natin, pero mas detailed per organ system. And then dito sa dopamine, sabi ko nga kanina, important lang sa atin yung sa dopamine 1 receptors. Kasi itong dopamine 2, mas relevant yan sa central nervous system. So when you go to your CNS acting drugs, especially in the section of Parkinson's disease and schizophrenia, so dun yung dopamine 2 receptors magiging relevant. So ano yung mga ano ba yung mga spectrum of action depending on the receptor affinity. So each drug, no, would have its specific receptor affinity. So yung epinephrine, so this is different. Epinephrine, as you remember, di ba, magkaiba yan sa norepinephrine. although they are, you know, both norepinephrine and epinephrine are, ano, can bind to all of your adrenergic receptors. Ang main difference nila, yung norepinephrine, di ba, yan yung primarily nagbabind sa alpha receptors. So while yung epinephrine binds to all alpha and beta receptors with same affinity. So parang mas generalized yung magiging effect ng epinephrine. While pag norepinephrine, primarily sa alpha siya with some beta. So more on vasoconstriction. Pero pagka yung norepinephrine, pero yung epinephrine, equally yung kanyang affinity sa mga, equal affinity sa alpha and beta. So iba yung magiging manifestations on the patient, yung mga pag nagbigay ng pharmacologic, no, na epinephrine. And they would have also different uses, no, if they are given as drugs. So but they are they act, no, both on all of your adrenergic receptors. So other prototypes, so if you remember, ano yung sabihin ng prototype, di ba? Ito yung kumbaga pinaka main or unang-unang na-develop na drug for that particular class. Hanggang siya prototype. So other prototypes, yung phenylephrine. So usually pag prototype, mga non-selective yan. And then, pagka nag-develop na ng bagong drugs, no, nagiging mas selective sila. So these are non-selective agents. So phenylephrine primarily on alpha receptors with little effect on dopamine receptors. And then isoproterenol, beta receptors, and then with little effect din sa dopamine receptors. Now, itong dopamine would have, syempre, dopamine receptor agonist siya. But as you increase the dose, nagkakaroon din siya ng activity against on beta and alpha receptors. So this would explain later on why, for example, dopamine can also be used so that for heart failure. No, kahit na ang primary na ini-innervate niya would be, diba, sa renal and splanchnic blood vessels. No, as you increase the dose, no, nag-activate na siya ngayon ng beta receptors and alpha receptors. So nagkakaroon din siya ng effect on the heart and the blood vessels na as the dose is increased. So tandaan din natin na generally naman, no, wala naman talagang drug na specific talaga siya, no? And many times as you increase the dose of a drug, it loses its specificity. So ang nakikita lang natin kadalasan yung kanyang nangingibabaw, no, na effect at the therapeutic level, at the therapeutic doses na binibigay natin. Okay, so the other way to study these drugs, no, is to see whether they are direct acting or indirect acting. So pagka direct acting, as the term implies, no, they bind directly and activate adrenoreceptors. Pagka naman indirect, through various mechanisms, they would increase the concentration of endogenous catecholamines, no, in the synapse. So yung endogenous, yung na-synthesize lang, nasi-synthesize ng body. So catecholamines, no, remember, no, these are yung ano ba examples ng catecholamines? Epinephrine, dopamine. So these are relatively polar molecules, and they are readily metabolized by your catechol o methyltransferases. So ano ba yung mechanisms for indirect na pag-increase ng concentration? So dun sa synapse. So examples would be amphetamine derivatives and tyramine. Saan ba nakikita yung tyramine? Sa mga fermented food, aged na cheeses, yan. And ang ano niya is they release the stored catecholamines. So they would release the stored catecholamines through a mechanism, through the mechanism of displacement. So di-displace lang niya from the vesicles. Hindi siya nag-occur through yung interaction ng bumps and snaps. Kasi di ba ang sabi natin, yung bumps and snaps, kailangan ng calcium. Di ba? Para mag-bind siya dun sa dulo. Pero ito, this is through displacement. Okay, so para pinapalitan niya yung mga drugs. So they are norepinephrine releasers. So another mechanism ng indirect increase ng catecholamines would be through inhibition ng reuptake. Di ba sabi natin kanina, yung reuptake would normally terminate the action of norepinephrine. So if you increase, you inhibit the reuptake mechanisms via the norepinephrine and dopamine transporters. So pwedeng ma-increase yung synaptic activity as you increase your concentration. So cocaine and many of your tricyclic antidepressants are reuptake inhibitors. So we will discuss reuptake inhibitors more in detail sa antidepressants na lecture. And then so magiging important actually ito in terms of drug interactions later on. And then another mechanism would be blockade of metabolism. So you block your catechol, O-methyltransferase, and your monoamine oxidases. Normally, this mechanism would have little effect on autonomic activity. No? Pero pagka na-block mo na itong yung metabolism, and then nabigyan pa yung isang patient no ng ibang indirect agents, so they can parang mas madami yung nare-release and mas madami yung pwedeng accumulate in the synapse. So this is an example of potentiating effects nitong mga monoamine oxidase inhibitors. So kunyari nag-take ng amphetamine or tyramine yung patient, or tyramine containing food like yung wine and cheese, tapos so na-display siya, di ba? So normally hindi naman yan masyadong malaki yung effect nun kasi you have your catechol O-methyltransferase and your monoamine oxidase inhibitors that would degrade itong mga catecholamines na yan. Pero kapag inhibited itong enzyme na to, so hindi sila madedegrade. So mas magiging mas dadami yung concentration and therefore would have effects on the patient. So ang common dyan would be hypertensive crisis. You will learn this when you go sa mga antidepressants and the important drug-food interactions. Sige. So lastly, I think this was not included sa iyong initial na PowerPoint na naka-upload sa Moodle. Meron kasi din tayo tinatawag na mga mixed acting agents. So pag mixed acting, they release the stored epinephrine from the terminals and also directly stimulate your alpha and beta receptors. So example dito would be ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, metaraminone. So these are mixed acting. So both direct and indirect yung kanyang mode of action. Important din ngayon, di ba, uso sa COVID, nababasa niyo yung Linhua? Nababasa niyo ba yun? Yung sa, yung Chinese medicine. So yung Chinese medicine na yun, actually it's a combination of many traditional Chinese medicines. Meron siyang ephedra or mahuang. So yung pangalan nung gamot na yun, ng plant. And ephedra, may effect siya both on indirect, mixed acting siya. So kaya yung symptoms, iba nagkakaroon ng bronchodilation, parang decongestion ng nasal mucosa. So parang for usual na viral illnesses. So ang problem lang doon, syempre, they can also stimulate the beta receptors. So pwede magkaroon ng tachycardia, arrhythmia, hypertension. So yun yung problema doon sa Chinese medicine na yan. So and then as mentioned earlier, itong mga selectivity, actually wala namang absolutely selective or specific. And nawawala nga itong selectivity net or specificity kapag usually pag tinataas natin yung dose. Okay, so next, let's go to the chemistry and the pharmacokinetics. So sabi natin kanina, epinephrine or epinephrine, and dopamine, these are catecholamines, and these are rapidly metabolized by your catechol O methyltransferases and your monoamine oxidases. So, when given as drugs, no, pagka orally administered sila, hindi sila ganun ka-effective. They are rapidly inactivated. So dapat kailangan silang ibigay intravenously if you want to see their effect. And since they are catecholamines, they are taken up into your presynaptic neuron in the same manner as your endogenous catecholamines. So itong mga drugs na to, generally, they have a short duration of action and they do not enter the CNS in significant amounts, even if they are given parenterally. So more peripheral yung effects niya. So wala siyang CNS effects. Also, itong isoproterenol naman, it's a synthetic catecholamine. Similar to endogenous transmitters, ang difference niya, hindi siya taken up into the nerve endings like your endogenous catecholamines. Now, talking about drugs that can enter the CNS, ito yung mga phenylisopropylamines like amphetamines, and to a certain extent, I'm sure nakatake na kayo ng mga Decolgen, di ba? So ano yung component ng Decolgen? May paracetamol, tapos may antihistamine doon, and then you have your phenylpropanolamines. So they actually belong in the same class, and they are usually used as decongestants, di ba? At they can enter the CNS and can cause mainly CNS stimulant effects. So these are resistant to monoamine oxidases and also resistant to your catechol O methyltransferases. Tyramine, so siya yung rapidly metabolized by monoamine oxidases except in patients taking monoamine oxidase inhibitors. So ito yung mention ko kanina na drug interaction. So mechanisms of action. So just to again differentiate norepinephrine and epinephrine. So sabi natin kanina, norepinephrine has a more specific action on the alpha receptors. And it increases and maintains blood pressure. So ang main difference ng norepinephrine sa epi, mas continuous yung release ng norepinephrine for the body, on the body. Ito yung para sa normal autonomic functions. Yung epinephrine, siya yung talagang nare-release during times of stress. Yeah. So this mainly made in the medulla. It acts more like a hormone. So itong norepinephrine, it acts both as a neurotransmitter and as a hormone. Pero itong epinephrine, primarily as a hormone siya, di ba? And sabi ko nga kanina, mas specific ang effect ng norepinephrine sa alpha receptors. While pag epinephrine, so on all body tissues with adrenergic receptors. So bronchodilation, vasoconstriction, increased heart rate, increased blood flow to muscles, increased glycogenolysis, etc. So, so this is the general summary in terms of the effects, no? And then yung clinical uses niya, they have overlapping clinical uses, no? Pero commonly mas binibigay yung epinephrine kapag may septic shock or emergency treatment ng allergic reactions, or sometimes in eye surgery to maintain dilation of pupils. So it's also available as EpiPen na preparation for anaphylaxis. And then yung norepinephrine naman, the indications shown here. So, but personally, ang mas nakikita ko sa clinics would be epinephrine. Itong for the cardiopulmonary resuscitation or in bronchial asthma, acute exacerbation, sometimes binibigay din yan. Or ito nga sa mga surgeries. So sa let's focus on the alpha receptors first. So sabi natin kanina sa table, di ba, ano ba yung nangyayari pagka may alpha receptor stimulation? So pag alpha 1, sabi natin this is mediated by your GQ, and then it activates the phospholipase C, And if you remember, tinuro na to ni Dr. Alejo, di ba? Yung generation ng mga second messengers to the G protein coupled receptors. So it releases inositol triphosphate and your diacylglycerol. So yung inositol triphosphate, it releases calcium from the stores in your smooth muscle cells, while your diacylglycerol activates enzymes. If I remember, yung mga protein kinase C, yung mga yan, di ba? And on the other hand, ito namang alpha-2 receptor activation. So it uses the GI and it inhibits your adenylyl cyclase, the GI G protein. And then sa beta receptors naman, all of your beta receptors, 1, 2, and 3, this would couple with your GS and this would stimulate cyclic AMP. So tandaan nyo na lang, pagka GI ay inhibition, di ba? Tapos pagka GS, stimulation of adenylyl cyclase. So beta receptors may also exert their G protein independent effects after binding beta arrestin. So you can review this concept in the desensitization mechanisms. It's a lecture ni Dr. Alejo ng G protein coupled receptors and beta receptors. Iba kapag sabi doon, kapag ang agonist ay matagal na nakabind sa beta receptor, anong nangyayari? So it activates your G protein receptor kinases and also activates your beta arrestins. So kapag nangyayari, di ba parang nagkakaroon ng conformational change doon sa G protein mo na hindi nakakabind ay doon sa receptor mo na pinabablock niya yung pag-bind ng G protein doon sa receptor. So hindi siya na-activate, nagkakaroon ng receptor desensitization. So ang main concept nung part na yon is that for beta adrenoreceptors, kapag prolonged yung duration na nakabind yung agonist doon sa receptor, nawawala yung nagkakaroon ng receptor, na-activate itong desensitization mechanisms, hindi mo na nakikita yung agonist effect kahit na nakabind yung drug sa yung agonist sa receptor. So in order to restore the sensitivity, anong ginagawa? Kailangan i-remove mo yung agonist for a few minutes para ma-restore yung sensitivity ng receptor. So anong implication nun? May mga drugs na, especially sa mga G protein coupled receptors, ang kanyang ang receptor niya, kailangan may mga times in the regimen na tatanggalin natin o isa-stop yung pagbigay ng medication. No, para magkaroon ka ng para ma-restore yung sensitivity ng receptor. So, ano ba example no? 'Di ba pagka kunyari may for example asthma, kung kayo nagka-asthma na o minsan iba dinadala sa ER, 'di ba? Ang first treatment doon would be nebulization by salbutamol. So, ang ginagawa doon sa treatment, ninebulize ka ng 3 nebules. Pero yung 3 nebules na yon, hindi mo ilalagay kaagad-agad doon sa nebulizer yung 3. So maglalagay ka muna ng isa, i-nebulize ka, then you rest for a few minutes, and then you give the second, you do the same thing, you rest, and then you give the third. So there's a time na wala yung drug. So that would allow for the restoration ng sensitivity ng receptor. Okay? You will, ang isa pang example dito, actually hindi nga lang ito sa beta receptors, basta pag G protein, kapag tuloy-tuloy yung stimulation, nagkakaroon ka ng desensitization. So like another example, yung mga GnRH agonists. So kapag yung GnRH agonist, binigay siya in a pulsatile manner to stimulate your normal pulsatile secretion ng GnRH, that will stimulate FSH and LH secretion. So and can stimulate ovulation in patients or desirous of pregnancy. Pero pagka binigay siya as a depot injection, tapos there's continuous release, ang effect niya would be inhibitory. So ito yung applications ng mechanism na yun. So you give the same drug, pero pagka depending on the way it is administered, no, nag-iiba yung kanyang yung effect sa patient. Okay, so itong GnRH na yan, that will be lectured to you when you go to your repro drugs. Sige. So, and then last dito sa mga dopamine receptor effects. So, sabi na, sa dopamine 1, it's coupled to the GS, stimulates adenylyl cyclase, increases your cyclic AMP. So, ito yung sabi natin sa ang relevant sa atin dito would be in the splanchnic and the renal vessels. Tapos D2 sa brain. So, ano yung organ system effects? So, let's go to the effects in the central nervous system. So, sabi natin yung catecholamines, they do not readily enter the CNS, therefore hindi masyadong nagkukos ng CNS effects. But for some, like amphetamines and cocaine, they have CNS stimulant effects. So, that's why they are also, you will discuss these drugs when you go to your drugs of abuse. So aside from the systemic effects, meron siyang CNS na stimulant effects. So nagkakaroon ng reduction of fatigue, anorexia, insomnia, and this is due to a release and amplification ng dopamine sa ventral tegmental area in the brain. And that is important iba dun sa reward pathway. And this is why they are mataas yung kanilang liability for abuse, yung kanilang abuse potential. So for amphetamine, anong pwedeng mangyari pa? So aside from the effects, from this mentioned effects, pagka chronic siyang in-administer, they also rapidly develop tolerance and dependence. So ano bang difference ng tolerance sa dependence? So pag tolerance, ito yung, di ba, pag chronically take yung drug, nare-reduce na yung effect niya. And you need more of the drug to elicit the effect na gusto niya makita in the first place. That's tolerance. No? Pagka naman dependence, dependence is observed when after chronic intake, tapos yung drug is abruptly withdrawn. So ano ba nangyayari kapag pagka chronic intake kasi, di ba, yung brain natin, no, it also adjusts. Kung CNS stimulant yung binibigay chronically, the brain adjusts by activating the systems of inhibition, CNS depression. So kapag withdraw yung drug abruptly, walang time to adjust, ang mangingibabaw na effect would be the CNS depressant effects. So dependence is seen when the drug is withdrawn, and then the patient develops what is known as withdrawal symptoms. Diba? So since ayaw niya ma-experience yung withdrawal symptoms, no, gusto niya uli i-take yung drug. So yun yung parang nagpo-propagate o nagpe-perpetuate nung sinasabi na physiologic dependence on the drug. Okay? And then at very high doses, they can cause marked anxiety or aggressiveness, paranoia, seizures, and cocaine overdose commonly also results in seizures. So, itong mga ibang effects na to, like, for example, paranoia, bakit siya naggaganon? Kasi di ba catecholamines yan, di ba? So, even yung effect on the transporters, pwede niyang maapektuhan. So, and because of the structural similarity, even yung dopamine can also be affected. So, that's why they can also for example, yung cocaine, it can also inhibit dopamine reuptake. And in the CNS, yung excess dopamine can, yan yung nagiging, parang neurotransmitter that is associated with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, paranoia, hallucinations, illusions. So, kaya nagkakaroon din ng paranoia. So, in the CNS, itong kasi norepinephrine, CNS excitation ang pinoproduce niya. Okay. So, next, so some alpha-2 agonists like clonidine when you go to your lecture on hypertension, so clonidine and methyl-dopa, so ito yung classified as centrally acting antihypertensive. So they are centrally acting, and ang ano niya, ang use niya is to decrease blood pressure by reducing norepinephrine release. So yan yung sa CNS, no? Pero kapag so it will result in a decrease in blood pressure as what is mentioned here. Pero yung first, itong gitnang bullet dito, yung vasoconstriction, that would occur when it is given intravenously or locally. So parang ano siya, no? Opposite yung effect niya. Pero ito kasi more on the alpha 2 receptors, no, on the blood vessels, no. Pero itong sa CNS, yan yung sa presynaptic na alpha 2 receptor. Okay? So after the effects on the central nervous system, let's go to the effects sa eyes. So phenylephrine and other similar alpha agonists, yung mga non-selective agents, so they are able to contract the smooth muscles of the pupillary dilator, causing mydriasis. This is the opposite of the pupillary constriction. So cycloplegia does not occur, and they also can increase the outflow of aqueous humor, thereby decreasing the intraocular pressure. So you will see there are agents that are given for glaucoma, no, na adrenergic agents. Itong difference lang, just to differentiate itong alpha 2 selective agonist like brimonidine, I think, and apraclonidine. So yan. So ito yung mga alpha 2 selective agonists. Ang mechanism niya to reduce intraocular pressure is by a reduction in synthesis of aqueous humor. Yung non-selective, primarily sa drainage, so improving the drainage. Pero pagka alpha 2 selective, decreased synthesis ng aqueous humor. So this should be differentiated. So, but in effect, they both lower intraocular pressure, but through different mechanisms. Okay, so next, sa lungs naman, sa bronchi. So beta 2 agonists can reverse bronchospasm. So it will cause relaxation of the bronchial smooth muscles. So yung isoproterenol is a non-selective agent. Yung albuterol, or in the Philippines, this is known as salbutamol. Yan. So sa US kasi, yung libro na yan, yung Katsung, so albuterol yung term dyan. Pero sa atin, salbutamol. Tinanong ko yung pharmacist, ano bang dahilan, ba't mag-iba yung pangalan? Sabi niya, depende yun sa, parang preferential lang ng country. Parang wala talagang reason. Parang acetaminophen tsaka paracetamol. So ganun lang daw siya. Kung ano yung mas gusto ng isang country. Parang pero walang talagang reason daw kung bakit sa atin salbutamol, sa kanila albuterol. So but it's the same thing, same drug. So beta 2 agonists would reverse bronchospasm. Okay, so kasi yung sa lungs naman, ang primary na receptor doon is the beta 2 receptor. So in the GI tract, alpha and beta receptor stimulation can reduce motility. So it causes relaxation of the smooth muscles. And alpha 2 agonists can also decrease salt and water retention, secretion. In the genitourinary tract naman, so ano dito? Sa bladder, sa prostate, and sa men, and for females, yung uterus. So, sa bladder, so ang effect niya would be sphincter contraction by contracting the bladder trigone and the internal sphincter. Note na yung internal sphincter. Kasi yung external, di ba, voluntary muscle control yan kasi that's skeletal muscle. So, it contracts the bladder, trigone, and the sphincter area, the internal sphincter. Tapos, alpha 1 receptors also mediate prostatic smooth muscle contraction. So That's why sympathomimetics are sometimes used to increase the sphincter tone in patients with incontinence or children with enuresis. Ito namang sa uterus, your beta-2 agonists can cause uterine relaxation. So, historically, and pwede siyang gamitin for stopping preterm labor, so as a tocolytic agent. However, it occurs at the dose that will also cause tachycardia. So kaya hindi na siya ginagamit ngayon, no, for tocolysis because of the cardiac na effects niya both on the mother and the fetus. So meron tayong mga mas bago and safe na drug for tocolysis. Hindi na ginagamit yung mga beta-2 agonists ngayon. So next, you have your in the blood vessels. So depende sa drug, no, kung ano yung nangyayari. So yung alpha-1 agonists like phenylephrine, so they would contract vascular smooth muscles, especially in the skin and the splanchnic blood vessels. And they would also increase peripheral vascular resistance and venous pressure in order to increase it causes an increase in blood pressure and a compensatory reflex bradycardia. Kasi sa blood vessel lang siya nag-work. Diba? So pagka nagkaroon ng vasoconstriction, so it can cause reflex tachycardia. So sa alpha-2 agonist naman, as we mentioned earlier, depende sa route of administration. Kung IV or topical, it causes vasoconstriction. Kung oral, it reduces sympathetic outflow and blood pressure. Ang beta agonist naman, ang may effect sa blood vessels, yung beta-2 receptors. So, beta-2 receptor agonists can reduce arteriolar tone in skeletal muscles and can reduce peripheral vascular resistance and arterial blood pressure. So, yan yung effect ng beta-2 agonists. Yung beta-1, maliit lang effect sa blood vessels. So, ang primary na may effect dito, yung mga beta-2 agonists. So, on the other hand, yung dopamine naman, so na-mention natin kanina, no? So, dopamine would cause vasodilation in the splanchnic and renal vascular beds. So, making them useful in the treatment of renal failure associated with shock. Kapag shock, mababa yung cardiac output, mababa yung renal perfusion. So, hindi naman ito renal failure dahil intrinsically damaged na yung kidneys, no? But because there is poor renal perfusion. So, kasi di ba pagka mababa ang cardiac output, ano ba ang response, di ba, ng katawan is to conserve water, di ba? So parang in terms of hindi siya magpo-form ng urine, di ba? So kaya lang problema doon, pagka mababa yung renal perfusion mo, that can cause direct damage to the kidneys. So it will cause now, itong effect ng dopamine, that can increase renal perfusion. Then sabi ko kanina, at higher doses, it activates the beta receptors in the heart, no, causing an increase in contractility. And then at even higher doses, it activates now your alpha receptors. Yeah. Tapos, so in summary, ito yung effect, no, ng mga specific drugs on the vascular system. So sa splanchnic blood vessels, sa skeletal muscle, renal vascular resistance, mean blood pressure, and the heart rate. So pagka may A, that's a compensatory response. Pag B, that's a direct response, no, if the reflexes are blocked. So next, sa heart. So yung heart, sabi natin kanina, di ba, ang predominant na receptor doon is the beta-1 receptor. And stimulation of both receptors can increase the heart rate, yan yung chronotropic, then AV nodal conduction, dromotropic, and contractility, the inotropic effect. So, so ano yung common binibigay dito, yung mga, di ba yung dopamine, pwede siya dito, and even dobutamine. So yung dobutamine, siya yung beta-1 selective agent. So we'll mention that later on. So ultimately, ano yung mga cardiovascular na effects? So yung norepinephrine, so since it is a sympathomimetic with both alpha and beta effects, so effect ng norepinephrine is to increase the blood pressure, primarily di ba via the alpha. So ang nangyayari, however, is that pag tumaas yung BP, it activates the baroreceptor reflex. So tataas yung vagal outflow niya. So the reflex vagal effect may dominate any of the direct beta effects on the heart rate. Kasi nga, di ba, sabi natin, ang primary effect lang ng norepinephrine is alpha. Di ba? So, pagka na-activate yung alpha, it can activate now a compensatory baroreceptor reflex and increases your vagal outflow. So, ang mangyayari sa kanya, yung reflex na effect would be a reduction in heart rate, no? Rather than an increase. So slow infusion of norepinephrine causes increased BP, which is a direct effect, and a decreased heart rate, which is due to the vagal outflow reflex. Okay. However, no, if the patient is taking or is given a ganglion blocker or an anti-muscarinic agent or any other drug that has an anti-muscarinic effect as its mechanism of action, this reflex is blocked, and ang mangingibabaw ngayon yung beta-1 mediated tachycardia. So kapag may ganglion blocker or anti-muscarinic effect, ang makikita natin is increased BP and increased heart rate. Okay? So, pagka norepinephrine alone lang, increased BP and decreased heart rate. Pero pagka norepinephrine, tapos on the background na yung patient is given a ganglion blocker or an antimuscarinic drug, so ang effect sa kanya, increased BP and increased heart rate. Okay? Ito namang mga ibang drugs na like phenylephrine and isoproterenol. So, pure alpha agonist yung phenylephrine. So, ang effect sa heart rate is decreased. Tapos yung isoproterenol naman, increased heart rate siya due to a direct beta stimulation. So, ito lang itong graph na to, no, just explains or shows kung ano yung minention natin earlier, yung norepinephrine and effects of blood pressure and heart rate. Comparing it with isoproterenol, which is iba beta agonist, ang isoproterenol. So, net effects on the cardiovascular system, aside from what you already mentioned, on the blood pressure. So, yung, di ba, yung diastolic, yung BP is composed of systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So, the diastolic blood pressure is affected mainly by peripheral vascular resistance and heart rate. And yung heart rate is important because this interval determines the outflow of blood from the arterial compartment. And also related din dyan yung coronary artery perfusion. So, di ba pagka mabilis ang heart rate, ano ba nangyayari sa diastolic interval? Umiiksi or humahaba? So what happens during pagka sa length ng diastole kapag mabilis ang heart rate? Is it increased or decreased?
Decreased.
Decreased, correct. Decreased. So pagka decreased siya, ano lang like for example, ano bang remember 'di ba kapag ang coronary artery perfusion, diba? That occurs during diastole. Diba? So, kapag mabilis ang heart rate. So the time in which the coronary arteries are perfused, diba, is also reduced. Yeah, so that the heart rate has an influence on that, no? But dito sa atin, in this part, no, yung diastolic interval determines outflow of blood, no, from the arterial compartment. So, iiksi rin siya, di ba? Pagka mabilis ang heart rate. So, the vascular resistance is influenced both by the alpha and beta 2 receptors. Yung pulse pressure naman is mainly influenced by the beta 1 receptors because it's primarily a function of contractility, while yung systolic BP, no, is a function both of alpha and beta receptors. So lastly, dito sa other organ effects, sa metabolic and hormonal effects. So nakita natin kanina sa first table yung activation ng RAAS through your beta 1 receptor stimulation, causing vasoconstriction and salt and water retention. Tapos beta 2 stimulation increases insulin secretion and glycogenolysis in the liver. So causing now hyperglycemia, which will be countered by the increased insulin levels. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na nangyayari kapag glycogenolysis ka. So this is initially associated with hyperkalemia as glucose is transported out of the liver. And then eventually it will decrease yung potassium levels niya as the glucose is taken up into the skeletal muscles. So I remember before in my internship, no, sa may isang patient, may renal failure siya, tapos nakita sa sa kanyang serum chemistry na may hyperkalemia siya. Tapos ang ginawa, basta hindi siya makapag-dialysis at that time. Tapos ang ginawa is pinanebulize siya ng salbutamol, which is a beta 2 agonist. So that's actually an off-label use, no, ng salbutamol, no, for reducing potassium levels. So this is the mechanism, no, kung bakit. Kasi parang tinanong ako ng residente, no, bakit siya ninebulize, wala naman siyang asthma. So paano ba natitreat ng beta 2 agonist yung hyperkalemia ng patient. So yan. So tapos last naman itong beta agonist stimulate lipolysis to the beta 3 receptors. So let's go to the clinical uses. So these succeeding tables are actually in your Zoom as well. So you can use this as your reference. So sa exam, commonly tinatanong, for example, this drug. So anong receptor siya? Ano yung the mechanism of action? So agonist siya on what type of receptors? So yun yung common na tinatanong. And then yung clinical applications, siguro itong bibigyan natin ngayon yung mga general concept lang. So hindi naman kailangan ngayon na alam na natin kung paano gamitin talaga. Pero yung the rationale, no, kung bakit ito yung ginagamit for this condition. So siguro pinakakailangan yung i-memorize dito yung mechanism of action. Kasi madali na lang predict yung effects niya on organ systems kung alam natin kung anong receptor siya primarily nag-act. So you have direct acting catecholamines, and then you have your non-catecholamines and your non-catecholamine na beta 2 selective agents, and then you have your indirect acting agents. And then yung ephedrine, which is a mixed acting agent. With the other agents such as cocaine and tyramine. So pero mas maano nito sa CNS nga. So ano yung mga uses? So anaphylaxis is treated primarily with epinephrine. So meron mga EpiPen available, di ba? So ano bang use niya pag epinephrine in anaphylaxis? It acts as a physiologic antagonist. So anong ibig sabihin ng physiologic antagonist? Diba, that drug acts on a different receptor to produce an effect that is opposite nung gusto mong iano nung disease process. So pag di ba pag anaphylaxis, yung mga inflammatory mediators mo like histamine, it would cause increased vascular permeability, so vasodilation. So it acts on the histamine receptors. So yung epinephrine naman, it would act of course on your adrenergic receptors. So um, so this is an example of physiologic antagonism na yung effect ng epinephrine would oppose the effect of histamine through a different receptor system. Okay? So yun yung ibig sabihin ng physiologic antagonism. Other drugs are actually also useful in treating anaphylaxis pero hindi siya as effective and as rapid as epinephrine. Okay? In the CNS, na-mention natin yung phenylisopropylamines with a high likelihood of addiction. So, pero meron din namang iba na ano sila no na may legitimate na indications. So, like for example, yung amphetamine, so while it is abused for its CNS effects, may mga legitimate na indications siya like narcolepsy, and yung mga derivatives niya are part in the management of weight reduction with appropriate na adjunct. So hindi lang siya, may mga kasama pang ibang medications. It also decreases appetite sa mga ano no, sa mga obese patients, and it may be helpful in initiating weight loss pero hindi siya parang pang long term. Methylphenidate and other amphetamine drugs are used in ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Pero baka iniisip natin bakit kaya ibibigay ito sa mga ADHD? Akala ko ba CNS stimulant ito, hindi ba sila magiging hyper lalo? Kasi ADHD na tapos bibigyan mo pa ng CNS stimulant. But if you look at the problem in ADHD on a neurotransmitter level, ang problem dun kasi is mababa yung kanilang norepinephrine in the CNS. So hindi enough yung stimulation kasi yung norepinephrine in the CNS, siya yung yung nag-stimulate or nag-allow for attention. Kaya yung methylphenidate and yung mga derivatives niya, yun yung ginagamit for ADHD. Yeah. Yung cocaine, this is commonly abused for mood elevation. You may be familiar with yung shabu, di ba? Methamphetamine hydrochloride. Yeah. So, same mechanism of action. So, next sa eyes. So, na-mention natin kanina, yung sa glaucoma. And actually, aside from the treatment in glaucoma, in usual na pangalan nito, usual na ophthalmologic exam, nagpatingin kayo sa ophtha, na if you notice, merong pinapatak sa mata bago tingnan ng ophthalmoscope or may machine di ba na nilalapit. So that will actually open dilate the pupils para mas madaling makita inside. So yun yung pinapatak. Pero ang lang natin dyan is sometimes tinatanong kung may hypertension yung patient. Kasi and tinitingnan yung blood pressure kasi minsan it can increase blood pressure even if it is administered topically sa eyes. So tinitingnan yung blood pressure kasi pwede nga mag-cause ng vasoconstriction, di ba, yung phenylephrine. Although hindi naman siya likely kasi topical lang yung preparation. Pero I remember before pinapa-monitor yung blood pressure pagka titingnan ko hypertensive bago magpatak ng phenylephrine. I'm sure also you've encountered before nagpapatak kayo sa eyes nyo kapag mapula siya. So yung tetrahydrozoline it can also reduce conjunctival itching and congestion. And then we already mentioned earlier yung mga drugs that are used for glaucoma. So yung non-selective at saka yung alpha-2 selective agents. So again, pag non-selective, ito yung nagre-reduce, nagpo-promote ng drainage or outflow. Pagka naman alpha-2 selective, they reduce the synthesis of aqueous humor. So ito lang, this table just emphasizes yung mga alpha-2 agonists. So these are examples. So sa bronchi naman, sabi natin kanina, it causes bronchodilation. So siguro importante na malaman natin ngayon, itong mga beta-2 agonists na to, may short-acting tsaka long-acting. So ang importante, pagka short-acting, ito yung ginagamit for acute bronchospasm. Or in acute exacerbation yung pasyente, yung mga short-acting ay ibibigay. Pero hindi siya pwede ibigay for prophylaxis kasi short-acting lang siya. Pero pagka yung mga long-acting, so ito yung commonly binibigay for prophylaxis. So hindi ito pwede for acute symptoms. So sa exam, dito at saka pag you go to the respi drugs, tinatanong, for example, may multiple choice. So which of the following drugs is best given for prophylaxis of for asthma? So kailangan alam nyo kung alin yung short-acting, alin yung mga long-acting. Okay? So these drugs are commonly given via inhalation or alam ko sa butamol may syrup din yan eh. So for children. So ito yung mga binibigay. For prophylaxis, you will see also that the kanyang inhalation preparation, usually meron siyang kasama na corticosteroid. So yung nasa right. So may kasama siya na corticosteroid. So when you go to respi drugs and prophylaxis ng asthma, so ito yung kasama sa binibigay. So next, so we go to the cardiovascular applications. So depende sa kung ano yung desired for the condition. Kung gusto natin yung increased blood flow, pwede magbigay ng norepinephrine or dopamine and dobutamine. So for acute heart failure and some types of shock, there's a need to increase cardiac output. So dito gusto natin ma-stimulate is the beta-1 agonists, which will increase contractility and also reduce resistance through a small beta-2 effect. So yung norepinephrine can be used, and also yung dobutamine and dopamine. Dobutamine, sabi natin kanina, di ba, beta-1 selective. While dopamine, primarily on the dopamine receptor, but then as you increase the dose, it also affects beta and eventually alpha receptors. So in acute heart failure, ito yung pwede ibigay, acute decompensated heart failure. Kaya lang, these drugs can cause arrhythmia and can be a problem for these patients. So usually, pagka acute decompensated heart failure, hindi ito binibigay chronically kasi it can actually shorten the survival of patients. So in conditions naman where a decreased blood flow or increased blood pressure is desired, so ang gusto nating ma-stimulate naman yung mga alpha-1 receptors. So mga alpha-1 agonists yung ibibigay. So like for example, epinephrine can be given for a local hemostatic effect. Phenylephrine and yung derivatives niya, no, it can cause decongestant na effects. And itong norepinephrine and phenylephrine can temporarily increase the blood pressure in cases also of shock to maintain perfusions of brain, heart, and kidneys. However, high doses can actually worsen the shock. So hindi rin siya recommended na masyadong mataas ang dose. Itong this picture that I included here, this is a skin graft. So for example, may burn yung patient or may nagkaroon ng injury, kailangan ng skin graft. So ang ginagawa, nag-harvest ka from one side and then you move it to another site, yung graft na yun, ano? Pero yung pinag-harvestan mo, pagka kumuha ka ng skin doon, may parang blade na ginagano, tinumukuha doon. That area will be bleeding, di ba? That will bleed. So ang ginagawa doon, intraoperatively, naglalagay ng epinephrine. So ever epinephrine can act on on the alpha 1 receptors to cause vasoconstriction. So para ma-reduce yung bleeding in that area. Yeah. So other uses pa ng epinephrine, sometimes sa epinephrine is also mixed with local anesthetics. So yung local anesthetics, they are actually derived from cocaine. Diba? Lidocaine, yung mga local anesthetics. So it's actually derived from cocaine. And yung cocaine, sabi na, yung effect niya will actually be vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction effect niya when administered locally. So, pero yung mga natin, yung mga synthetic or yung mga synthesized natin na local anesthetics, ang effect niya sa blood vessels is vasodilation. Okay? So, pagka binigay yung local anesthetic, in-infiltrate mo sa skin, it will cause vasodilation. So, anong issue natin doon? Pagka nag-vasodilate ka, mas madaling mawawala yung local anesthetic. Diba? Kasi it will go into your systemic circulation. So, mas short, maiksi lang yung effect ng local anesthetic. And then, that can also increase the risk for toxicity because most toxicity of your local anesthetics is due to the systemic absorption ng local anesthetic. So, many times, epinephrine is mixed with local anesthetics so that it will cause vasoconstriction in that area. So, vasoconstriction will result in lidocaine na mas mahaba yung kanyang duration of action and less yung systemic toxicity. Okay? So, ang lang natin dyan, ang kailangan lang nating tandaan, hindi dapat magbibigay ng mix na epinephrine and lidocaine kapag ka nag-opera ka sa mga areas that have end artery circulation. Kasi pagka end artery circulation, the vasoconstriction can lead to necrosis. Okay, so, hindi yan dapat ibigay kapag mag-opera sa fingers, nose, sa ears, kapag ka nagtutuli mission kayo. So, yan. So, hindi dapat, hindi naka-mix yun with epinephrine. Oral ephedrine and midodrine. So, these are used for chronic hypotension due to inadequate sympathetic tone. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na may mga patients na may inadequate na sympathetic tone. Kapag tumayo sila, ano bang nangyayari? Gravity would make the blood pool, di ba, sa lower extremities. So yan yung mangyayari dapat. And then your baroreceptor reflex, masisense yun, di ba? Na mababa yung perfusion. Kaya it will stimulate the sympathetic nervous system to cause vasoconstriction. And that is what is normally happening to us. Pagka kunyari bigla tumatayo tayo from lying down, so hindi naman tayo nagba-black out, di ba? Kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng adequate na sympathetic tone as a normal reflex mechanism. So, but in patients with inadequate sympathetic tone, magpupul yung blood sa lower extremities niya, causing orthostatic hypotension. So, ano yung binibigay? Yung ephedrine and midodrine can also be given for these patients. Nakalimutan ko pala i-mention kanina yung ephedrine, pseudoephedrine. So, since these are this can act in the CNS, no? Pwede rin niya increase ng risk ng addiction and dependence, yung ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. So, pagka piniprescribe yan, usually dapat may S2 license. So, ang common na use niya talaga is for its decongestant effect. So, mga ENP, nakita niyo yung ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. Mas for sympathetic tone, ngayon mas ginagamit na itong midodrine. So, mas specific siya sa alpha 1 receptors, ang midodrine. So, ito lang yung mga ibang applications, yung concentrations ng epinephrine. So just for you to visualize. And then ano pa yung cardiovascular application where acute cardiac stimulation is desired. So epinephrine for cardiac arrest and isoproterenol for AV block. So yun yung mga ginagamit. So let's go to the genitourinary tract. So yung beta-2 agonist, ito yung sinabi ko kanina for to suppress preterm labor. No? Pero hindi na ginagamit ngayon kasi nga may cardiac stimulant effects that can be dangerous both to the mother and the fetus. So may mga ibang mas mas safe na medications for suppressing premature labor. And then yung long-acting sympathomimetics like ephedrine then, so they're also used to improve urinary incontinence in elderly patients and in children with enuresis. So I think that's the last, no? So these are just some examples. So sa toxicity naman, of course, the toxicity are the extension of the receptor stimulation. And the other factor then, whether the drug is able to reach the CNS or not. So yung catecholamines, since little effect yung little lang effect niya sa CNS kasi hindi nga siya nag-cross ng blood-brain barrier. So, mainly peripheral siya, yung nakikita natin. So, sa mga catecholamines. Tapos yung mga phenylazopropylamines, ito yung nag-produce ng CNS stimulant effects. Okay. So, sa peripheral effects, pagka alpha-1 agonist, pwedeng hypertension ang manifestation due to the vasoconstriction. Pag beta-1 agonist naman sa heart primarily, so sinus tachycardia and arrhythmias. Pagka naman beta-2 agonist, a common adverse effect would be skeletal muscle tremor. Yeah. So note, none are perfectly selective. And then itong high dose, major toxicity ng cocaine, so causes arrhythmias, myocardial infarction, seizures, and it is commonly fatal, yung overdose ng cocaine. Parang lately may nababalita, di ba? Ewan ko nabalitaan nyo ba sa La Union, pero may nag-overdose daw na artist. I-google nyo na lang kung sino yun. Yan. So, ito yung common dyan. Of course, like cocaine, ano pong iba niya effect? It can cause also vasoconstriction. Diba? So, diba yung ano yan, sa pagka ini-inhale siya, can cause nasal septum necrosis at nasal septum deviation. So dahil nga it causes vasoconstriction. I think this is the last slide for your sympathomimetic agents. So let's have a short break before we proceed to the adrenoreceptor blockers. So we'll see if we can finish this already or we'll use their 1 o'clock. Pero mas maiksi naman ito compared doon sa sympathomimetic agents. So let's have a 3-minute CR break. Okay, so let's proceed with your adrenoreceptor blockers. So this figure will again show to you yung the classification of your adrenoreceptor blockers. So with the blockers, ang sa kanya, there's some degree of specificity. So dalawa lang siya, either alpha blockers or beta blockers. But within their classification, so merong mga selective at non-selective din. Okay? So these drugs are divided mainly based on their receptor selectivity. In terms of their mechanism of action, they act either as pharmacologic antagonists or partial agonists. So we review the concepts ng anong difference ng competitive antagonists sa partial agonists. And then most are reversible and competitive in action, although for some like your phenoxybenzamine, irreversible yung kanyang action. And because of their selectivity sa receptor, iba-iba yung effects nila at clinical applications. Let's go to your alpha blockers. So the classification is based primarily based on the affinity sa alpha-1 or alpha-2 receptors or a lack of that affinity. So other basis naman would be kung ano yung reversibility ng binding niya sa receptor at kung gaano katagal yung action niya. So phenoxybenzamine, for example, is the prototype long-acting agent. It is slightly alpha-1 selective and it binds covalently to its receptor. That's why it has a long duration of action. In contrast, phentolamine is a competitive, reversible, non-selective alpha blocker. So it has a short duration of action of a few hours only, no, compared with phenoxybenzamine. Then you have other agents like prazosin, terazosin, tamsulosin, silodosin. These are alpha-1 selective agents. So you will see itong phenoxybenzamine and phentolamine, common yung ginagamit sa pheochromocytoma. Itong prazosin, commonly binibigay sa benign prostatic hyperplasia and also hypertension. Although hindi na rin yan commonly, hindi na yan part ng first line drugs natin for hypertension ngayon. And then you have alpha-2 selective agents like yohimbine and rauwolscine. So these were drugs that were given before for erectile dysfunction. Pero hindi na yan common na ngayon kasi may mga iba ng mas useful ay mas effective na drug, no, for erectile dysfunction. So these two drugs are used primarily in research. So in terms of kinetics naman, so majority or all are available either by oral or the parenteral route. Yung phentolamine is rarely given orally. So usually parenteral siya. Yung kasi in its use, pang short duration lang siya. Sometimes intraoperatively, pero itong phenoxybenzamine, ito yung may oral preparation and can be given in pheochromocytoma for chronic treatment because of its long duration of action. So it binds to the receptor covalently, kaya mahaba yung kanyang duration of action. Despite the fact na maiksi yung kanyang half-life. If you remember yung description sa pharmacodynamics ng drugs binding irreversibly dun sa receptor, hindi siya proportional sa half-life ng drug, but with that time na nakabind siya doon sa receptor. Diba? So as long as the drug is bound to the receptor, so hindi it will still elicit its effect. And pagka di ba, kapag irreversible binding, insurmountable siya, di ba? Insurmountable yung effect ng phenoxybenzamine in this case sa ating endogenous na norepinephrine, di ba? If you remember, pag irreversible, ano ba ang effect nun sa dose response curve? What is the effect on efficacy and EC50? Naalala niyo ba 'yon? Sa graded dose response curve. So pagka irreversible siya, the Emax is reduced but the EC50 remains the same. In contrast, kapag meron kang competitive reversible agonist, diba, the Emax is the same but the EC50 is increased. It shifts the dose response. The dose response curve of the agonist is shifted to the right. Diba? Yun yung sa competitive antagonist. So yung phentolamine, siya yung may short duration of action. Tapos ito namang prazosin and other alpha-1 selective agents usually arrange na kanyang duration of action ng 8 to 24 hours. So these are competitive reversible antagonists as well. So yung reversibility is due to the strength, irreversibility is due to the strength of the bond. Diba? So pagka covalent is a strong bond, so kaya irreversible siya. And pagka irreversible, sabi natin, kailan lang ano uli yung characteristic niya, kailan ma-restore yung effect? Kailan ma-restore yung effect? Kapag na-turn over na yung mga receptors that are bound, di ba? The duration of action is dependent on the turnover of the receptors to which the drug is bound to. Yung competitive, diba, ang effect nito are surmountable by increased agonist concentrations. While pag phenoxybenzamine, insurmountable siya. Kasi pag competitive, they can compete with the same binding site. So increasing your agonist concentrations can result in fluctuations in the inhibitory effects. No? Kasi nga, pwede siyang masurmount. So yung pheochromocytoma, based is a tumor consisting of cells that release varying amounts of epinephrine and norepinephrine. So, and the common manifestation would be fluctuations in blood pressure. So, pagka nabigay ka ng phentolamine, so yung inhibitory effect ng phentolamine may still be overcome by irreversible blocker, no? Pero yung ma-overcome yung effect ng phentolamine. Pero pag phenoxybenzamine, hindi siya ma-overcome. Kaya for chronic treatment, no, kung unresectable yung tumor, phenoxybenzamine is given for para hindi magkakaroon ng fluctuations in response. Now, for the alpha agents, di ba meron kang selective tsaka non-selective. So sabi natin yung phenoxybenzamine is slightly selective. Diba? Slightly selective siya sa alpha-1. So pag non-selective blockers, they would cause a predictive blockade of alpha-mediated responses as we saw in the first table. No? So ang pinaka-importante na makikita natin doon would be in the cardiovascular system. So this will result in reduced vascular tone and reduction in arterial and venous pressures. So there are no significant cardiac direct effects. So mainly on the blood vessels siya. So what would be the effect on the heart would be reflex tachycardia. So pwede magkaroon ng reflex tachycardia with non-selective alpha blocker effect. So this is due to the blockade of alpha-2 receptors on the adrenergic nerve terminals, which normally should reduce your norepinephrine. So, but since na-block yun, ano mangyayari? It will increase sympathetic outflow pagka naka-block yung alpha-2. So instead of a reduction ng alpha-2 with agonist effect, antagonist yung effect. So the opposite will be seen. So mangyayari, tataas yung norepinephrine sympathetic outflow, kaya pwede magkaroon ng reflex na tachycardia. Yeah. So ang mga pasyente na naka-receive ng alpha blocker, they show this, they manifest with this phenomenon known as epinephrine reversal. So ito yung pasyente naka-alpha blocker siya, tapos binigyan natin ng epinephrine. So bakit epinephrine reversal? Because ano bang ine-expect natin na magiging effect ng epinephrine sa blood pressure? Diba dapat tataas siya? Diba dapat tataas ang effect ng epinephrine pagka ang effect sa blood pressure pag nagbigay ng epinephrine. Pero kapag naka-receive yung pasyente ng alpha blocker, so anong nangyayari? Yung BP na pressure response, magiging depressor response siya. Bakit? Yung pressure response, this is mediated by the alpha receptor. Pero pagka yung epinephrine combined with an alpha receptor, blocker, anong mangyayari? Ang mamimediate o mangingibabaw na effect is the beta-2 receptor mediated vasodilation. So kaya bababa yung blood pressure. So tandaan kapag isang pasyente ay naka-alpha blocker tapos binigyan ng may epinephrine siya, imbis na tumaas ang blood pressure, bababa ang blood pressure. Yan. So this is not observed with phenylephrine or norepinephrine due to the lack of sufficient beta-2 effects. So beta-2 kasi causes that vasodilation. So the epinephrine reversal is manifested as orthostatic hypotension due to venous pooling or inadequate blood volume. So occasionally, this is seen as an unexpected but predictable adverse effect ng mga drugs na mayroong mga alpha blocking effect din. So like some phenothiazine antipsychotic agents and antihistamines. So yung phenothiazines, you will encounter this when you go into your antipsychotic agents sa CNS. Normally, ang antipsychotic effect is mediated by dopamine 2 receptor blockade. Pero pagka merong ang mga antipsychotic agents kasi divided siya into two general types. You have typical and atypical. So pagka typical agents, so primarily these are strong dopamine antagonists. Strong dopamine antagonist siya. And pero itong mga typical or yung mga old agents na to, the antipsychotic effect is mediated by the dopamine 2 blocking effect. Pero yung mga agents na to, meron din siyang additional alpha blocking effect, muscarinic blocking effect, and serotonin blocking effect. So, kumbaga sabi nga natin, di ba, wala naman drug na isa lang yung kanyang mechanism of action. So, yung parang additional na receptor na binablock niya, this can be manifested. This is so in this case, pwede magkaroon ng orthostatic hypotension. Yan. And then antihistamines, this is applicable to first generation antihistamines. So mas significant yung kanilang alpha adrenergic receptor blocking effect. So yung mga second generation, ito yung mga bago like loratadine, desloratadine, cetirizine. Pero ano yung mga first generation, yung mga diphenhydramine. So yan yung mga may yung mga antihistamines with alpha blocking effect. So ito lang yung effect sa epinephrine reversal, no? And then ito yung for selective alpha blockers. So pag selective, they are they refer to the alpha-1 receptor. So yung alpha-1 blockers, these are commonly given now for benign prostatic hyperplasia. Yung mga lumang drugs dito sa class na to, yung prazosin, terazosin, doxazosine. So dati binibigay yan for hypertension and also for BPH. So, usually sa mga exam, sinasabi, kunyari may case, mayroong isang lalaki, hypertensive, tapos may BPH siya. Tapos tatanungin, ano yung drug na can address both the hypertension and the BPH. So these are your alpha-1 selective agents. However, ngayon, hindi na siya kasama sa first line medication for hypertension. So, limited na siya sa pag-treat ng symptoms of BPH, yung urinary retention and yung mga urinary retention. So, I just also want to emphasize here yung yung tamsulosin and silodosin. So yung dalawang examples na yon, ito yung less cardiovascular effects. So less cardiovascular effects yon. So used siya primarily lang sa BPH kasi wala siyang effect sa cardiovascular system. So clinical uses. So yung mga non-selective blockers na mention natin kanina, yung pheochromocytoma. So phenoxybenzamine is usually used for the preparatory phase. Kailangan kasi normal yung blood volume and BP bago mag-opera sa patient. And also used for long-term management. And also shown here yung mga non-alpha receptor mediated effects, uses niya. No? So due to the serotonin blocking effects with carcinoid tumor and mastocytosis. Tufentolamine sometimes used during surgery and also for short-term management. And other uses for prevention ng damage due to accidental infiltration ng epinephrine or norepinephrine, which can cause tissue ischemia, sinabi natin kanina with local anesthetics. So pwede ibigay yan. Tapos hypertension, due to abuse or overdose ng mga phenylisopropylamines, and rebound hypertension due to sudden cessation ng clonidine therapy. Tapos, also used in Raynaud's phenomenon. Ano ba yung Raynaud's phenomenon? Di ba yan yung, it's characterized by reversible recurrent vasospasms sa arterioles and digital arteries, usually triggered by cold and emotional stress. So yan. So, yan, beta alpha blockers are given, and also erectile dysfunction. Pero yun nga, yung mga phosphodiesterase inhibitors, yan yung mas binibigay na ngayon for erectile dysfunction. You will discuss those drugs more, itong mga sildenafil when you go to vasodilators, yung mga nitrates. So, but in principle, I think na nakasama ito sa lecture ni Dr. Alejo, di ba? Yung phosphodiesterase inhibitors, siya yung nag-inhibit ng degradation ng cyclic AMP or GMP. Diba? So, mape-prevent na yung degradation ng second messengers. So, ito nga selective alpha blockers. So, ito yung ginagamit siya primarily for hypertension and BPH, pero mas preferred na yung mga mga walang cardiovascular na side effects. So, toxicity are mainly extensions of the alpha blocking effect. So, pag alpha 1 blocking effect, primarily orthostatic hypotension with reflex tachycardia, especially for non-selective agents. So, pagka, for example, yung pasyente binigyan ng doxazocine or prazosin, no, for BPH or for hypertension, dapat ang dose binibigay at night. So first dose, yun yung tinatawag na first dose phenomenon, yung sudden drop in blood pressure with the first dose of your alpha-1 selective agents. Dapat ibigay yung first dose at a small amount lang and taken just before bed. Tapos yung reflex tachycardia may precipitate angina. So less common ito sa mga alpha-1 selective blockers. And then phentolamine can also have non-alpha mediated vasodilating effects. And some can also cause nausea and vomiting. So this table summarizes to you the alpha adrenergic receptor blockers, their characteristics, kinetics, and toxicities. So it's now 9:59. So we can end now, and then yung next na mamayang 1 o'clock yung beta blocking agents naman. So maiksi na lang yun. And then you'll have enough time naman to preload for your post-lecture quiz later on.